Today is the 19th of December. We're coming in on the holidays here. My name is Paul Glumaz. I am with the LaRouche Political Action Committee, and this is being brought to you by General Welfare Presents. Today, we are entering deeper into the saga of the Mueller FBI situation. Today, I believe Deputy Director of the FBI, McCabe, spent 5 hours and a half or more in closed hearings with the, I believe it's the House Judiciary Committee, or it could be the Senate Judiciary Committee. I get confused. There's so much going on. And tomorrow, I believe that Bruce Orr, the fourth head of the, he's the fourth leading person, formerly fourth leading person of the Justice Department, is going to be going to have hearings, probably also in closed door sessions. So, what's going on right now is that the onion is being peeled, right? And we're peeling the onion. And now we've come to a situation where the former chief Russia expert for the MI6, he was high enough in MI6, I'm talking about Christopher Steele, who was one rung below the chief of MI6, who oversaw for a decade or more the intelligence operations being run by the British inside Russia, and who was also part of something called the Eastern European Crime Task Force, which was a multiple jurisdictional task force within the Justice Department, which included input from the CIA, from MI6, from the FBI, the Justice Department. This nexus of people were involved in the organized crime task force, which, and running operations against Vladimir Putin. Okay, this is the core group of law enforcement officials who were part of this apparatus, and it included the founder of Fusion GPS, Glenn Simpson. They all have known each other during this whole period of time. Christopher Steele worked with these people. Bruce Orr worked. McCabe worked. Peter Strzok worked with these people. McCabe's wife was a Russia expert. She was part of this. She was part of the CIA. This wife, Bruce Orr's wife. So this whole nexus inside the government connected to British intelligence on these kind of task forces went into action around the time of Trump's announcement in 2015. And as the text messages between Page and Strzok, this was for in the event that Trump won, they wanted to be able to bring him down. But so far, this has not yet led to the head of the CIA, Brennan, and the head of the NSA. The head of the Director of Intelligence, Clapper. But these guys are starting to get worried. Clapper just called Donald Trump an asset of Vladimir Putin. So this thing is not going to go away, and Mueller has escalated to seize tens of thousands of emails from the General Services Administration, which has housed these transition emails from the transition team, which had not yet been removed, not yet been destroyed. And these are emails of the transition team of Donald Trump before he went in, and this was without a court order, and during the period that the general counsel of the General Services Administration, who would have prevented that, was in the hospital. They took advantage of him being in a hospital to seize these emails. Okay, so this is an escalation on the part of Mueller, and what you have to understand is very much that the population increasingly is becoming aware that this is a very conflicted, politicized situation. That the people that Mueller picked to be the investigators are all heavily involved in activities of either protecting Hillary Clinton, or of working with Hillary Clinton, or being part of Hillary Clinton's operation, or being very hostile to Donald Trump. And this is now beginning to become very apparent through these congressional hearings and so forth. And the pollster for the Clintons, Mark Penn, had an opinion piece in The Hill a few days ago where he said that now increasing majority of Americans believe that the investigation of Mueller is not is not biased. It's very biased, and that there is not it's not an honest investigation. So you have this poll that was done indicates that the population is becoming increasingly aware that this is a political witch hunt, and that they're being completely discredited. And what Mark Penn says, if someone doesn't come in and clean this mess up, then and straightens this stuff out, then you're going to have a constitutional crisis, and that's where we are headed. Now, our movement, we have the dossier on Robert Mueller, and we are now getting out another massive number of copies into Washington and New York in the next few days. We intend to finish the job on Mueller in the very near future. And this is very important because this is the context in which Donald Trump it doesn't have the stability as a president to really function. Now, simultaneous to this, there has been a activation of the Christian Zionist element, led by people such as John Hagee and others. And this Christian Zionist element, which is on the issue of the end times, has been putting a lot of pressure for Trump to stand up for Israel. Stand up for Israel. This is the whole thing. Now, Mike Pence, the vice president, is very tied with this Stand Up for Israel operation. He got an award from them. They paid for his trip to Israel. So this evangelical movement, of which Mike Pence is a political representative of, is driving very hard for Trump to recognize Jerusalem, which he did. And it's driving very hard for a confrontation with Iran on behalf of Israel. So this is one of the many things that Trump is responding to or placating, or maybe he's partly, with it. But the point is that it is in precisely this kind of environment that you have an unstable president, and you have these kind of pressures can have a great effect on the president. Now, yesterday, or Monday, excuse me, Donald Trump put out the national security report, and this was written by primarily Obama people, and it lists the Russians and the Chinese as being competitors, but but Donald Trump did spend some time on the issue of the infrastructure and national security. That the two are interlinked. The economics of the nation and national security. So as we speak now, the South Korean delegation to China and the South Korean president are now moving closer to adopt the Belt and Road, to work with China on the Belt and Road. Japan is starting to work with China on the Belt and Road. So the Belt and Road economic policy, which I've been talking about week after week, is rapidly growing and is becoming increasingly an important factor in the strategic situation. There's a real shift going on in the world. Two nations have now come forward to be the first European nations to endorse participating in the Belt and Road. One of them is Poland, the other is Austria. So you see this shift taking place. Meanwhile, those countries which are not oriented towards the Belt and Road in Europe are experiencing increasing instability. Germany is one, France is another, Italy is another, and Great Britain is another. Elizabeth May, Theresa May, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, tried to set up a situation, pass a law whereby the Prime Minister would have executive orders in how the United Kingdom would disengage from the European Union over the coming period. And there was a rebellion within her own party, which said no, all decisions made have to be cleared by the Parliament. This is a first break in the dam of the control of the Tories over their own members in the Parliament of Great Britain, and that means that we're not far from having a collapse of the government of Great Britain. In Germany, the elections were a number of months ago, but there has been no government formed. None of the potential partners, have been able to come together in Germany. The original attempt was called the Jamaica Coalition, involving the Christian Democratic Union, the Christian Democratic Party, the Christian Socialist Union, the Christian Democratic Union, the Green Party, and the Free Democratic Party, and they couldn't come to an agreement to form a government. Those four parties. So now the negotiations are occurring between the two largest parties, the Christian Socialist Union and the Christian Democratic Union, and the Democratic Socialists, SPD, Democratic Socialists. So these two bigger parties or group of parties are still have not come to a government, and the political leaders want a government, but the rank and file of the party don't want to form a coalition. So this is a very unstable situation in Germany. You have, as usual, an unstable situation in Italy. And now we get to the situation that's the ticking time bomb. Everything is now a bubble. And now you've added into these bubbles the Bitcoin bubble, the cryptocurrency bubble. And today, the stock exchange, the commodities exchange in Chicago is now allowing derivative trading on on Bitcoin, where you don't have to hold the Bitcoin, but you're betting on the price of the Bitcoin. This is insanity. Cryptocurrencies are uh, are not like state credit or national currencies. One, you have to pay significant to do the transactions, to get your money in and to get your money out, to get it out, to convert it. Number two, this occurs completely electronically. Number three, it's the perfect place to launder organized crime. It's the perfect place to in China, where 80% of the transactions were occurring, have outlawed this because they felt that this was uh, uh, at the center of a lot of the capital flight out of China and so forth. So you have cryptocurrencies now being brought in, and various banks of the world are giving them credibility as if they were a separate currency like the euro or the mark or the euro or the dollar or the pound or the Swiss franc or any other currency. They're being treated that way. They're being traded against these other currencies. And since there's a limited amount of them, their value is going up as people are increasingly looking at them as a speculative situation. And there are many, many warnings that but by bringing derivatives into the picture, bringing them into derivatives is only going to make it much worse. So this is an added feature of the financial system. Not only do you have consumer debt bubble, corporate bubble, um, uh, government bubbles, financial bubbles, government debt bubbles, the stock market is going up dramatically. And so all of this portends a very swift collapse at some point. So this is very significant, and this is what we're going to be going into, is the total systemic breakdown. And I don't think you can hold it off forever. It's been held off for quite a long time, and I think we're coming closer to that reality. Now, when that happens, governments have to act to protect the citizens, to put the banks, to keep the deposit base in the banks, to reorganize the banks. And they have to, and the only way they can do that is if they separate out the commercial part of the banking system from the investment or from the speculative part. Because you don't want the monies that are in people's savings accounts and checking accounts being used for anything else than commercial purposes. So you're going to have to go back to Glass-Steagall. That's going to be one of the first things that you have to do. You have to probably do it on an emergency basis. So that's what we're looking at, an emergency economic action. Now, a lot of people are asking, well, what about the tax bill that Trump is trying to get through Congress that the Republicans are so big on? Well, Jamie Dimon had a comment about the tax bill. He called it quantitative easing 4, meaning that it's essentially a bailout of the financial system by reducing the burden on the tax burden on the corporations, and also allowing for a lot of the offshore money to come in to come back in to bail out the banking system. So he calls it quantitative easing 4. So that's what this tax bill is all about. And it's not that there's anything good in it. There's not. But it's something that is distracting people from the reality. Now, we had an accident here in DuPont 2 days ago. My friend Hal Cooper, who is an avid transportation expert, he had 2 friends that died on the train, who were part of a railroad club that were traveling this on a maiden voyage, and his 2 friends that he's known for a long time, they died in the crash, and it appears that the cause of the crash, whatever it is, it appears that the cause of the crash was a infrastructure malfunction. They didn't have the right equipment set up in the right time. Somebody may have dropped cement on. But what it actually underscores is the dilapidated nature of our infrastructure, and particularly of our rail infrastructure. So this is going to be the big issue for Trump going into January 30th when he gives his State of the Union message. And it's precisely in this State of the Union message that we want him to lay out a vision of a Hamiltonian economic recovery of the United States with Glass-Steagall and the other three of LaRouche's 4 laws. This is what is required. That includes a national bank or a reconstruction finance corporation or something that can funnel credit directly into the physical economy for development, for infrastructure development. And of course, committed to a nationwide dramatic increase in the productive powers of the U.S. population, and then an emphasis on space, nuclear, and fusion as leapfrog technologies. So this is where Trump has to go when he gives the State of the Union message. He has to deliver a unifying package which deals with the problem. He has to go outside the confines of the straitjacket that he is in. The neoliberal Democrats going berserk over identity issues, over sexual harassment issues, over Trump's, and then you have the kilogram, kill granny Republicans. The biggest threat is women and welfare mothers driving Cadillacs. That whole crowd of Republicans, they just want to cut everything but their own wealth. They want to cut everything but their own wealth. They don't care about the country. They just care about themselves, and they believe that everyone should look out for themselves. And if they know how to do that, well, then the country would be okay. But obviously, you got all these deadbeats. That's their way of thinking. They were all deadbeats, really. If we're not rich, we're deadbeats. So those people, unfortunately, they get a lot of money from the Koch brothers and other types of people like that, and they sell this poison, and they're having a lot of influence among the Republicans. So you have a mess. So you have to have a president that has to come out and address the reality clearly and directly and outline an actual path. And if he does that, then along the lines of LaRouche's 4 laws, then we're going to have a country. The country's going to make it through this crisis, which is coming. So all of you who have been watching me over this period, it's kind of a bleak period. I wish it were a better period, but I do want to thank you for watching. I do want you to, because this will probably be the last, if not the last showing, the next to last showing this year of me, and as we go into the new year, and we are entering quite a world where we have 2 different systems before us, one that goes into collapse and depopulation, and the other that goes into a new system of global economic development. And those who don't want to lose their control, the oligarchies of the world, who have great visions of enslaving the population in thousands of different ways, they are close to being defeated, but they are also close to destroying humanity. So we are entering that period, and I want to wish you all the best in the holidays, in the period between now and the beginning of the year. And I want you to reflect upon all the things that I've said and all the things that you've learned, not just from me, but from many others, as we go into this drama, the great drama that we're in.